In this review of the week's news, the historic Littleton tug launches again, a local angle on the flag debate, and everyone says no to a central city bus shelter. This is CTV News Week in Review. I'm Gordon Findlater. Well, did you ever want to be a train driver when you were younger? Some lucky students this week got to experience what it's like to get behind the controls of a Kiwi Rail train.
It may look like a game, but it's all about making the region safe. These trainee train drivers got to have an insider look into how Kiwi Rail's locomotives operate.
This is about giving some children from Christchurch an opportunity to learn what it's like to drive a train.
Around 20 Waimaori school students got a step-by-step run-through of the controls and buttons that make the trains work.
We're trying to get the message across to them that trains take a long time to stop, so they're getting to have a go at pulling on the brake, and we're teaching them that it can take up to 10 rugby fields for a fully laden train to come to a stop.
The high-tech simulator has been used by a number of Kiwi Rail drivers to get them up to speed with the driving conditions. A good idea for those still starting out.
Gives the trainee driver a good introduction to the cab and the actual controls.
Yep.
And what happens with his training in the real world of driving trains.
But it's more than just the driver training. The public need to be aware as well.
Canterbury has definitely been identified as one of the regions where the risk is higher in terms of collisions per population, and certainly the South Island in general, we tend to see more collisions down here.
The stats in Canterbury don't look good either. Over the last 10 years, nearly 60 level crossing incidents have occurred around the Canterbury region. The majority of them are from heavy and light vehicles, and 3 pedestrians have also been involved with rail accidents.
People, particularly in rural areas, tend to get a little bit complacent around railway lines. They expect that the train might come at a certain time and get a bit complacent. So yeah, this is about reminding people to get off autopilot and expect a train any time.
The consequences of those crashes are significant. The trauma involved for everybody involved, from the train driver to families to everyone else that responds as well, is significant. And it's not very often that people walk away from train crashes involving vehicles and trains.
Many people have been through the shipping container and witnessed what New Zealand train drivers encounter.
It's a lot more complicated than I expected, actually.
I thought it was really hard, yeah.
It's tricky, harder than I thought, especially if they can't see you.
And I got to have a go as well, and the kids were right.
That's your throttle there. Yep. That's forward and reversal. That's your train brake, so that brake puts the brakes on all the wagons behind you.
Let's just say I'll stick to my day job, but for now the message is clear for everyone. Be safe around trains. Jared McCulloch, CTV News.
Christchurch sex workers are battling for their right to remain on the streets of Christchurch, with New Zealand First wanting to move them inside.
Well, there has been strong debate for a prostitution reform brought to Parliament by New Zealand First, aiming to get street workers off the streets.
What it's aimed to do is to make street prostitution illegal, and to restrict it to both brothels and home prostitution.
Dennis says that the danger that a street prostitute comes across every night is horrific.
I think safety is a very, very big issue. There is another issue, of course, as well, which is public nuisance. I think there are many people who live in the areas where street prostitutes tend to do their business, and they would tell you about some of the issues that arise in terms of nuisance.
The party aren't petitioning for sex workers to get out of the game altogether, just for the women to conduct their business in a more professional manner.
But it's all also about appropriate ways of people carrying out this particular business activity. I mean, other businesses have to get premises and operate their businesses in them and can't do that on the street, so I don't see why that should be possible for the prostitution industry.
He says they're not being unreasonable, they just want tighter regulations on street workers.
I think it would be a step too far to try and outlaw prostitution altogether. and it would only mean driving it underground again, and there are huge disadvantages in doing that. As a minimum step, we can at least stop it happening on the street. There's no excuse for that at all.
But Anna Reid of the New Zealand Prostitutes Collective isn't convinced.
I think people that draft a bill like that really don't want to see prostitution happening at all. They know they can't do anything about it because it is decriminalised, so they're trying to go for the most vulnerable people, and no, it's a terrible bill.
She says that there was a huge step taken to decriminalise prostitution in New Zealand, and this would only be a step backwards.
By bringing in this bill, it would criminalise street-based workers and their clients, and we've worked very, very hard, particularly in Christchurch, to develop a good working relationship with the police and the sex industry and us, and that would just go back to nothing.
Anna says that she doubts the reform will change the amount of prostitutes on streets.
There will always be street-based workers. Even if they're outlawed, which I don't believe is going to happen, they'll always be there, and we want them to have the same protections that all other sex workers have.
Dennis says that he thinks the reform has got a good chance of being successful. However, it could take a while to get off the ground.
The private member's bill goes into a ballot, and it has to be drawn from the ballot, which could take quite a long time and may never be drawn. And then it would take a couple of months to actually be debated if it was drawn. So, for example, I had a bill which was in the ballot for 4 years before it got drawn, and it still hasn't been debated yet. So it does take quite a long time.
Chelsea Daniels, CTV News.
It's a war expo with a difference. As Littleton's art scene gets back on its feet, the Tin Palace is hoping to get more feet through the door with a unique look at the past.
Remembering those through art.
This is an exhibition which helps to celebrate and commemorate the World War I participation from Littleton and what those numbers of data actually mean.
By numbers, she means those who served from the township of Littleton 100 years ago.
304 members of the community that left, 3 women and 301 men. And so each one of these items actually reflects those numbers.
The exhibition at the Tin Palace showcases the impact of the First World War on the community and follows a story of the cultural view of fighting back in the 1900s. The room is split into 3 sections, identifying the brave men and women who went overseas, some not coming back.
The ones which look like medals, they're the parts that the families would have been left with. So the men who returned would have brought their entire necklace with them, and the men who didn't, just the tag. I think it's actually incredibly important to acknowledge what communities did during those war years.
She says soldiers signed up as volunteers to discover a new adventure overseas. The name of the collection is War Story, with emphasis on the word toy in story.
Having grown up using war toys, you know, the little soldiers, we play marbles, you know, and marbles are about, you know, taking something, conquering something and taking something back again because you won. But clearly by 1916 that was no longer an adventure, and so they called out conscription, and we really had to send more forces in.
It marks the impact on this Canterbury community, something that many places around the country will be exploring as this year marks the first landings in Gallipoli.
I think it's really important to not just remember those who died, but also just all the members who took part in it, because they rebuilt, or they came home and they built new communities with different thinking, different thought processes, and different tolerances.
It's taken her since the start of the year to construct her masterpiece, but she didn't do it alone.
Dr. Gwen Parsons from the University of Canterbury, and she's a World War I specialist, and we've been friends for a long time. I thought, all the celebrations, I thought it was really quite important to celebrate something that we'd both talked about for a long time, and so this is sort of the result of those conversations.
There's only 2 weeks left to view the display, but a lifetime to remember those who fought for New Zealand. Jared McCulloch, CTV News.
Oh, coming up on your Week in Review, what is your favourite new flag? Welcome back. The country is now set to vote on a new flag later this year. So Jared McCulloch went out to conduct his own mini flag referendum to see what Cantabrians think, and at no cost to the taxpayer.
So the top 40 flag designs have been out for the last couple of days. You've had a chance to have a look, talk to friends, talk about it by the water cooler at work. But which ones do you really like, Canterbury? Well, let's find out. The flag consultation panel will narrow down these flags to a top 4, which New Zealand will vote on in the first referendum this year. There's Koru's, there's Ferns, there's the Southern Cross, and even some that are a little different. So what's the verdict?
Probably that one. Well, the Koru is obviously quite nice and have the Southern Star in there as well.
That one with the red, the fern and the Southern Cross. I think because the silver fern is quite a big flag for us already, like we see it in some places and we kind of identify with it already.
The one that caught my eye was that one.
And why is that? Why that one?
Partly it was the fact that the Southern Cross is kinked.
That one.
That one there?
Yep.
The one with the red and the black in the front? Why that one?
Just because it's got everything on it.
I actually quite like that one.
Why that one?
I like the colours and I think we should have the fern.
So just the fern with the black and white?
Yeah. Oh, just plain and simple. Yeah.
None of them. Leave it as it is.
It's more similar to what we've got. I don't really think the need is to change it at all personally, but...
Sorry, brother.
Why that one?
Oh, it's just awesome. Good Kiwi flag, isn't it?
Part of the problem with the flag is no one knows that it's New Zealand, or they confuse it with Australia. That's New Zealand. Everyone knows the All Blacks, everyone knows the silver fern.
And some not so keen. Why the current one?
We've had men in my family went and died so that we could have the freedom to choose free speech and live the way we do, and I'm not going to vote for anything.
I don't really like any of them, mate.
Oh, why is that? What's wrong with them?
Oh, I'm just a bit old school, really. I actually don't like any of them, bro.
They're very nice, but I'm sorry it's a but. I still like the old flag.
I actually like our current flag.
Why is that? Why the current flag?
I suppose I've just grown up with it.
So here are the flags that made the cut by Christchurch locals. And in fact, 3 of them are from Kyle Lockwood, with the silver fern, black, white and red, the silver fern with black and red stars, and the silver fern with black, white and blue. And, of course, this one that looks kind of similar to the current flag, Mike Davison with the black jack. So, we'll just have to wait and see what the flag consultation panel decides. Jared McCulloch, CTV News.
It's older than the Titanic and much safer. But if the historic Littleton tug doesn't get more funding, it might not be staying afloat for much longer.
It's still chugging along for now. This historic tugboat has just received a new lick of paint, getting prepared to set sail into the harbour.
The tug Littleton here has been on the dock for about a month. We've had all the hull painted and done work on the sea suction valves and that sort of thing that we can't do when she's out of the water.
But the nearly 108-year-old tug Littleton has struck a problem.
We have to rely on grants from the community trusts and those sort of people, and that sort of money is starting to dry up a wee bit, so we are starting to struggle to do the big jobs that need doing.
Due to its age, increased maintenance costs are making the boat difficult to keep afloat. It receives a check-up here at the dry docks every year to scope out any problems from top to bottom.
We've done a lot of work on the boiler and lifted the plates, cleaned underneath the engines, cleaned all the stuff that accumulates through the year. Being a coal burner, one of our problems is that the coal ashes from the coal tend to sneak their way into the bilges underneath.
But as time goes on, the list of repairs continues to pile up.
We want to just keep on going forever, but unfortunately the time I don't think will allow us to do that, because as she gets older she's going to be more and more things required to be done to maintain at the state she is now. So we really need a huge loan from somebody to do the big jobs that we can foresee in the next few years are going to have to come along and get done.
Jeff says he's not certain how much cash is needed to complete work on the growing issues, but he reckons it could reach close to $1 million. The tug made its journey from Glasgow back in 1907 and has since been a vital part of the harbour's operations alongside its sister ship Littleton II. It served its time up to the 60s, but with new technologies and better ships available, this little old tug was destined for the scrap heap.
Locals thought, no, she's too good to be scrapped, so they said to the Port Littleton Harbour Board at that stage, if we form a preservation society, can we look after her? They said, sure.
This group jumped on board and kept on with its upkeep, running harbour cruises around Littleton. They bought the tug for just $1 and have looked after it ever since, but the steam's looking to run dry if work can't be poured into it soon.
We are all volunteers, and without the input of these guys, we just couldn't run. They come up, they churn out on days like this. I think they love it as much as I do.
Barty says the funds have been slim since the earthquakes, leaving some uncertainty for the historic tug's future.
Will come a time, probably within the next 3 or 4 years, where we've got to say, right, now's the time to stop and do a major job on it.
They'll be hoping it'll be full steam ahead, ready for their summer season. Jared McCulloch, CTV News.
It's the first cadetship program of its type, and there'll be more to come. Christchurch Airport showcased its Airbridge graduates this week.
With unemployed youth rates around the country higher than ever, young people are all keen for good jobs. And the support was obvious today at the Christchurch Airport, where the first 4 cadets of the Airbridge cadet program graduated.
It was a kernel of an idea a long time ago where we decided that what we needed to do was inject some young people into our business. The aviation business is a very passionate business and people tend to stay for a long period of time, and we weren't seeing a lot of the young people getting the opportunities to come through. We thought it was a great way to engage with the community as well and offer some opportunities for some younger people in the Christchurch area.
The cadets were able to dip their feet into a wide variety of areas within the aviation industry, from managing customers to baggage handling.
Well, the beauty with aviation is you can go down multiple different roads depending where your passion is. And what we did was try to create an opportunity they could explore what passion they're really interested in and then give them opportunities. So if that was with customs or with perhaps with an airline or perhaps even with the airport company, there were opportunities and they could explore those over the 18 months or 12 months now and then decide where they wanted to go from there. And at the end of it, they had something that they could travel with. So a little bit like nursing or teaching, you get to travel the world. With aviation, every city has an airport, so there's opportunities.
They're not guaranteed jobs when they leave the program, but the experience they get is next to none.
At the end of the 12 months, if there was an opportunity, then they're sitting pretty well to get those positions. But no, there's no guarantee of a job. It's a life experience, a job experience. It's something on their CVs as well. It's very difficult for young people these days to get something that's really meaningful on their CV when they go on to the next role.
As the airport says goodbye to these 4 cadets, they will welcome more cadets, proving that the program is a definite success.
So we were very lucky, and I think the success of the program is really based on the 4 initial candidates that we had come through our cadet program. It's like most schemes, when they start, there's a lot of misconception or perhaps trepidation by people. These 4 were very mature, energetic, engaged people, and they really set the benchmark for our cadet program.
I think the variety which it offers, you're not just working within the airport building itself, you're out on the tarmac, you're helping the public, agencies, airlines. There's so much that you can do, and each day is very different to the next.
These 4 young Cantabrians left school not knowing what to do next, then enrolled in the Airbridge cadetship program.
I've kind of had my eyes set on being a pilot for a while, but I didn't really know what it involved fully, and this gave me a great insight into what it's all about. And you can see all different areas of not only the pilots but also the ground crew and everything, and it's great.
And the program is admired from all around the country.
Initially we looked at the Christchurch area, but news has travelled pretty quickly, and we've got people applying from Auckland, all around New Zealand for a position on our cadet program. They see the value of it, and we're very lucky that the news has spread so quickly.
Chelsea Daniels, CTV News.
Well, still to come, a bus shelter is closed before it opens. Welcome back. Another 7 families will soon benefit from getting a warm house. Habitat for Humanity is back at work on building homes for those in need.
It was cause for celebration today with the arrival of 12 DOW volunteers to help build affordable housing for 7 Christchurch families.
It's kind of like they've cleared out the executive offices in Australia to come and help in Christchurch.
It's the city's largest rebuilding program and aims to help families currently living in substandard housing. Dow's employees worldwide have committed to applying their talents to positively impact the lives of others.
Dow, a big international firm, have come here to help us out with some volunteering today. They've given us $400,000 towards building these houses. So it's fantastic to have that financial support, but it's a real buzz to have their moral support on site here today, and they're just getting completely stuck in with building garages at the moment.
Construction started about 4 weeks ago now, and they're ready to start pouring concrete onto the foundations.
We're making real progress on this site, so we've got 7 families will be shifting in here towards the end of the year, and we've got 4 red zone houses shifting onto new foundations. We're building 3 new kit set homes here, so it's going to be a great little wee development for our families.
Dow has donated a lot of time and effort in building homes for Christchurch families, something that they are proud of.
But last year, 2014, was our 50 years of Dow in New Zealand, and we thought it was a great opportunity to give back to New Zealand, who's been such a great country for us. So we made a donation to Habitat for Humanity, specifically around the Christchurch earthquake.
Dow are dedicated to making the world a better and safer place, using chemical, physical and biological sciences to tackle the world's most challenging problems.
It's important for, I think, all corporations, but we're 118 years old now, and we not only are successful because of our employees and our customers, but also the communities in which we manufacture in. And it's very important that you respect that and you find opportunities to be part of the community, and when you can, give back to the community.
The 7 new homes are scheduled to be completed before Christmas, with 4 of the houses being relocated from the red zone. And they're always looking for an extra hand or two.
So we've got a lot of general volunteers who can just get stuck in, but what we're short of is people who are trade skilled.
Habitat for Humanity is a global organisation that has helped build 800,000 houses around the world, with around 4 million people housed. Chelsea Daniels, CTV News.
It's been stopped before it started. The new super bus stop on Manchester Street has proven so unpopular, it's gone back to the drawing board.
It's back to the drawing board.
I'm actually thinking I'm very pleased.
Day-long discussions over a proposed super bus stop has been put on hold, with a new design starting from scratch. A hearing panel at the Christchurch City Council opposed the 4 options put forth to install a public transport shelter on a section of Manchester Street, with heritage advocates and Central City property owners upset with the plans. Now Sarah and the council will have to start all over again.
I'm very pleased, a little surprised because I wasn't sure what the outcome would be, to be honest with you, but I do think it's the right decision not only for these landowners but for recovery on Manchester Street generally.
Submissions that all the property owners made this morning were very strong, and it's all about access rights to property, and the panel listened and they've rejected all the options that they put forward.
Earlier this year, Sarah and the council released plans for the super stop, which would have featured 2 pods located under a shelter holding up to 10 people at a time, along with other seating in the space. But it's understood at peak times around 600 passengers would be getting on and off the stop every hour. One concern of many.
It could have been managed a whole lot better, and it would have avoided the adversarial outcome that has played out. They are not against public transportation at all. It's simply that it needs to be appropriate to its location and to their surrounding context. And in this case, unfortunately, it was just too far wide of the mark.
Heritage advocates want the stop moved back to its original site, a block away.
It just means that the heritage is protected from visual impediment, and for the moment, don't know what's going to happen, but they have been instructed to come back to property owners and work with them to find a solution.
The panel has made it very clear that they expect dialogue to occur with the landowners that are most affected, and that's, to my mind, an entirely appropriate way forward.
The process will start all over again, with the council now working alongside Sarah to come up with a new plan. The proposal will be put forth to the Infrastructure, Transport and Environment Committee next month. Jared McCulloch, CTV News.
Oh, that's CTV News Week in Review. I'm Gordon Findlater. Have a great weekend.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.